What will each of the candidates do not to yield to the great pressure to join the sea of corruption that we find in our
Okay, so I think next we'll start with Christopher Reynolds.
I mentioned the $50 million bond and how Providence first brought it to us for voter approval, and the council people and the mayor could not get along. We went and voted. Nothing came of this bond. This is an example of the corruption that exists in Providence City Hall. One of the ways that I will rise above this is I want to bring voter initiative to these bonds that we want to have. There needs to be transparency, it needs to be simple, and it needs to be measurable. We can distribute this money throughout the city without everyone having their hand out, and a lot of services can be rendered. Thank you.
This is actually one of the reasons why I'm running, because I got tired of the city of Providence being an embarrassment and not having any honor and trust in our state and even our country. That's one of the reasons why I've decided I want to have a personal ethics and oversight committee of Ward 3 voters, aside from the state stuff, but I want it to actually be accountable by you, yourselves. And that can be made up through all the associations throughout the ward, but that's the thing I want to do, and that's one of the reasons I also want an office within our ward. Because I want to be able to tackle it, I want you to be able to tackle me, ask me any questions, because right now I am tired of being an embarrassment, and there's no trust or honor in Providence. Thank you.
We have a lot of very big issues that we're facing in the city, obviously with the pensions and the difficulties with the school buildings and trying to create living wage jobs in the city and so forth. And it's going to be very, very hard for us to honestly deal with many of these problems if we don't trust our government. I think we've developed this in Providence, almost this sort of romantic attachment to the crime town days of that you got to know a guy. And my family's from Chicago, and I grew up here, and my dad talked about Richard Daley all the time. And it's amusing, and it's something that makes us unique, except that it doesn't make us unique, and it's really damaging. It's really, really damaging. So there are a number of different ideas out there that I support for trying to help enforce ethics rules. Certainly we can strengthen the Providence Ethics Commission. Councilman Zurier has talked about trying to have more transparency in terms of campaign finance reports, people not being allowed to serve in leadership positions on council if they own campaign fines. I'd like for us to consider the idea of public financing of elections, which I think would get some of the bigger money out of the process and empower more people. It's being done in other cities. I can certainly promise you personally that I will be ethical, but that's a pretty low hurdle for any adult job. So we need to change the rules. Thank you.
I also agree. There are a lot of the ethics issue has been plaguing our city for quite some time. And the problem is that we've shifted away from issues that are impacting our communities, like schools, housing, sidewalks, all types of infrastructure. And so we need to shift back. And I think we're not really enforcing those ethic rules. And we need to do a better job in enforcing and holding our city officials accountable. The community has to come together to do that. It's important to ask your city council person questions. If they're not responding to you, to find out why they're not responding. Another issue is that there's only 15 people who hold all the knowledge. That information should be shared to the community members. So as a city council person, some of the things that I would do is to make sure that I'm communicating to my community. I'm transparent. We're talking about the sidewalks and how, yes, there's a process to submit your complaint to the city, but there's no process to actually monitor what's happening with it. So we need to establish checks and balances and processes to monitor what our city council people are doing and to make sure that we understand the policies that are being implemented and that information is being communicated to the community.